Y'all voted, I listened. Welcome back to 9 to 5 Gamers, and today we're doing our top 10 deck building games. Now, this is going to be a very interesting list because some of the deck builders that I've played, I think I've played like maybe 20 or so deck builders. I haven't played a ton. I don't even know if that's a ton. Maybe that is. Maybe for some of y'all, you played like 20 deck builders. But out of the 20, I have my top 10. But there is a caveat. There are 2 games that I don't have anymore because I've sold them and they're out of my collection. But they're still really, really good games that I would love to play. I just sold them for particular reasons. I'll get to that once I get to those. But I'll put up like a picture of those. So because of that, because there's 2, I'm going to do my honorable mentions. 2 games that I think are great deck builders that didn't make my list, but because I've sold 2, maybe they are somehow in my top 10, but they'll be like my 10 and my 9. But this is my 11 and 12. So the first one is, which one should I do first? Okay, I'll go with this one. Clank in Space. So, and I don't want to say Clank in Space, I'll just say Clank in general, because I think Clank is a really cool deck building game where you are building your deck by buying cards and purchasing cards, and then you're using those cards to maneuver yourself, your little figure, throughout the ship. For this one, it's a ship. For the other ones, it's going to be like a cave or a dungeon. And so you're trying to steal artifacts and treasure, and you're trying to escape as fast as you can after stealing them. But the way it works is really cool because it's a deck building game where you buy cards. And just as a caveat, you should know, if you don't know, deck builders are basically a game where you have a set deck of cards that you start the game with, and then you buy stronger cards, add them to your deck, shuffle up, and then continue to play. They usually go to your discard pile. Some of them don't. But for Clank, it's a really fun game. The only reason why it didn't really make my list is because I like Clank. I'm not in love with Clank, and I think Clank Catacombs is more so the Clank I want to play, but I haven't played it yet. So Clank didn't really make the list. It didn't make the cut. But Clank is a really good game, and you also have Clank Legacy, which I know I've heard is really good. And my other honorable mention is the classic deck building game, and that is Dominion. This is the big box edition. I hate this thing with a passion. I want to get rid of it and just get the regular small version, or just get like a big trove box that I could put all of the Dominion expansions. But right now all I have is regular Dominion with the Intrigue expansion. I want to add more expansions. It's just because I have this big box, I don't usually get this to the table ever. It's just so big and it's always on the top of my shelf, so I never play it. But Dominion is such a fun game, and I really, really enjoy it. This is the classic starting deck builder. I'd say that if you've never played a deck building game, just buy Dominion, the base game. So much fun that you can get out of that box, and it's a perfect deck building game. You don't need anything else. Now, it's very old because this is a pure deck builder, whereas Clank, you have a board and you're moving around and it has other mechanisms, and I think a lot of the better deck building games build around that concept. But there are a couple of pure deck builders. This is an example of one of them, where you have just a big array of cards that you can buy. You start off with base cards, buy upgrades, put them into your discard, and then shuffle up, and then continue to play and just build up your deck that way. This is a pure deck building. It has no other mechanics but deck building, but it's one of my favorite games. I still love playing it, even though I haven't played it in quite some time. But I would gladly play that if anybody wanted to. You hear that, Madanid? We got to play Dominion again, because I know you like that game, right? All right, anyways, so that is my honorable mentions from. Now we're getting into my top 10. Now this one's a little weird. It's kind of a deck builder, but not really. And so again, this is one of those things where it's if you don't agree with me that this is a deck builder, that's fine. You can go ahead and just say that in the comments, and you can just insert Clank or Dominion in there. But this one's actually a bag builder. It's called Quacks of Quintinenberg, and if you've never played this game is incredible. You basically have a little bag, and then you have this little cauldron, and you are pulling out chips from the bag. And so as you place a chip, you continue to place them into your cauldron, and every chip has a number on it. And there are certain white chips that have numbers 1, 2, or 3 on them. And as you put those out, the white ones, when they total 7, your pot will blow up. So you have to stop. You don't want to go any further. And so, but there are other chips that don't go against your total that are these colored chips. There's like red chips that have different abilities and things like that. And there's a ton of different chips that you can add to your bag as you continue to build up this bag. So instead of a deck builder, it's a bag builder. And so you buy chips, put them in the bag, so that way when you pull them out, it helps you to get further along the track. The more further along you get around the swirl of your potion, the more points you get. But this is a really fun game. I highly recommend getting it. It's kind of a deck builder, but there's no cards involved, so I guess it's not necessarily a deck builder, but it is a bag builder, and it's kind of the same mechanism. But it's very, very push your luck, very much luck based, because it just depends what you pull out of your bag, and you could have really bad luck. But if you build right, you'll mitigate a lot of that. And so Quacks of Quintinenberg, that's my number 10 deck builder. And if you disagree, I get it. No reason to get on me. My number 9 is a game that's actually probably going to leave my collection, and the only reason it's going to leave my collection is because a friend of mine has the whole not the whole collection, but all of the good expansions for this game, and it's just no reason for me to have it, and he has it as well, and that is Marvel Legendary. I didn't want to take out the whole Marvel Legendary, but this is the World War Hulk expansion, which is my favorite expansion for the game. Marvel Legendary is another example of a pure deck builder, where the only thing you're doing is really just building your deck. Now, that's not entirely true. There is a board, and there's like a villain that you have to face off against, so it does have other mechanisms in it, but the as far as the action goes and what you're doing on your turn, it's all pure deck building. It's really, really fun. I really enjoy this game still, and I would gladly play it, but the setup can be a bit much. It's difficult to set up. It takes a long time for you to find things that work together. Sometimes there are combinations you put together that are just like, they just seem unbeatable. But the amount of different combinations you have with this would last you a lifetime. And this is just, again, another one of my favorite deck builders of all time, Marvel Legendary. I love it. There is the DC deck building game. I haven't really got a chance to play that. I'm not that big of a DC fan, although with the new games that are coming out, I might actually become a fan of Legendary. So the DC universe. But that's it for that one, Marvel Legendary. Now it's time for my number 8. And my number 8, I really, really like this game. And I think maybe a lot of people won't like this game and won't agree with this pick, but my number 8 is a pretty interesting pick, and that is Star Realms. Star Realms comes in a tiny little box. I don't have it here. I actually have it at my office because I play it a lot at the office when I got like some downtime to kill, if I'm waiting for somebody, if I'm for something. But Star Realms is an incredible game. It's literally like $15 as a tiny little box. It's a dueling two-player only game, but it's just a classic super normal, no, not super normal. What's the word I was looking for? Pure. That was it. It is a pure deck building game. You get a little market of cards in the middle. You start off with a deck of cards. You buy cards to make your deck stronger, just like every other deck builder. I don't need to explain that, but there aren't any other kind of mechanics other than you damage your opponent. And when you're doing damage to your opponent, they have this little life band that they tick down. There are bigger copies of the game, so if you wanted to invest more in like a bigger copy, they do have the $30, $40 big box edition of Star Realms. The Star Realms is so fun because it's such a quick game. Like, you can play a game of Star Realms in like 20 minutes. And it's just one of those two-player games that I really love and really enjoy, and it happens to be a deck builder, so Star Realms. That's my number 8. And again, the reason I think that Marvel Legendary is a better game than Star Realms, but Star Realms plays so fast, it's hard for me to look at both of those on my shelf and go, I definitely have one person at the house and I want to play Marvel Legendary. Do I want to set all of that up, or would I rather just play Star Realms and it sets up super lightning quick? I think Star Realms is going to win that choice for number 8, but it was pretty close between the two of them. And that's it. Star Realms. That is my number 8. My number 7, this is a game that is very interesting. It is a game called Siege of Rundar, the Siege of Rundar. Siege of Rundar is a really cool game created by Arnach. Now, as you see, I have not brought it out because it is no longer in my collection. There are a couple of reasons for that. The Siege of Rundar, which I always want to call the Lost Siege of Rundar for some reason, but the Siege of Rundar is a deck builder, but you play inside the box, and so this box is like this big fort, and then you have like little pieces that that you move around, and you can go around and battle or orcs and trolls and whatever they're called, goblins. I can't tell the difference between these guys, but these basically in the center of your town, there's a little pile of gold that you're trying to protect, and that's how you score at the end of the game. If you can run out with all 20 pieces of gold and escape your fort, then you win the game with 20, and that's like a perfect score or something like that. But the whole time, these goblins are jumping over the walls of your little castle, and they're going in and stealing your gold. So as soon as they come in, they steal a piece of gold and they leave. And so you don't have to fight them, but they're taking your points away, and so you have to try to beat the goblins and orcs and stuff like that, while at the same time building your deck, while at the same time digging a hole through the back of the mountain to try to dig a hole. And if you can dig a hole all the way out, then all of that gold gets to be taken out, and then you that's how you score your points. The game is very difficult. It takes a very long time, and the box is so weirdly shaped. It's not the size of a calyx, which, you know, there's some games that are not the size of a calyx, you know, that's not that big of a deal, but man, it was just such a big clunky box. The stuff didn't fit in there really well. I'm waiting for a smaller condensed Lost, I was going to call it Lost Siege of Rundar. A smaller condensed Siege of Rundar that's a little bit smaller, that fits in a calyx, number one. Number two, I'm looking one that they streamline the rules in such a way that it takes less time. Which I think there's ways that you can do that, but I had to house rule a lot of stuff, and there was another thing where it was like, you roll the dice, whatever you roll, that's what you get. When you play dice games, you need mitigation in your game. This has no mitigation whatsoever. You roll, that's it. You get what you get, you don't get upset. I didn't like that. Me and my wife had such a hard time with that rule that we did a house rule where we said, you get one re-roll. You can keep as many as you want, because that's how it is in dice games. In dice games, you roll, and then you go, okay, there's my roll. I'm going to keep these two, and then I get another reroll, right? Dice Thrones, King of Tokyo, you know, like these games let you do those things. And so I just thought that was so limiting in the type of game. There's some games that works. This one, it didn't. I didn't like that, but that is a good house rule. So if you do get Siege of Rundar and you're trying to make the game a little more palatable, you use that one reroll. I think that's really good. And but that's it. I really like the game, though, and I hope that they come up with a smaller edition with maybe an expansion or something that just makes the game a little more streamlined, because I really want to play that game some more. I actually kind of regretted getting rid of it. When I did get rid of it, my wife was like, why did you get rid of Siege of Rundar? And I was like, or were you going to play it? She was like, maybe not, but it still would have been nice to have. And I was like, it's true, but we have to make tough choices sometimes, and that one ended up leaving. But I'm looking forward to getting it back one day, maybe if they make a smaller version of it. But yeah, that is my number 7, Siege of Rundar. My number 6, I love this game. This is a game by one of my favorite companies, Leader Games, which I have basically every game of theirs except for Vast. But the game Fort, this is a cool little deck building game, and let me tell you something. Do not be fooled by this box. I know there's cute little kids on this. This is not a kid's game. This game gave me a headache because like the deck building in this game is so interesting, and the way that the game works is that you gain, like, the cards help you gain stuff and pizza, and as you get more stuff tokens, you're able to do more with those things, and pizza, and you use those to pay for points, and it's just a race for whoever gets the most points. I forget the amount you're racing for, but man, it is such a cool game, man. And then as you build your deck, you start to build this little engine in there where cards work together, and you're like, dude, if I get these 2 guards at the same time, you draw your hand, and you're like, let's go, and you play those combos out. Like, this game is incredible, but man, is it thinky, man. This thing gave me a headache, but I really enjoyed playing it, and I'm looking forward to playing it some more with other people. But Fort is a really, really good game. You guys should definitely check out a copy, and I heard the Cats and Dogs expansion makes it even better. I was like, I really love this game, so that's going to be pretty cool. That is Fort, my number 6. My number 5 is an amazing game called The Loop from Pandasaurus. Pandasaurus, their games are so interesting. Like for me, I don't think I have any Pandasaurus games that I'm like, oh, this is a 10. But I feel like Pandasaurus has been one of the most consistent game companies, because I feel like every game they make is just good. Like I actually got what is the name of that? Skate Summer. I had watched the Dice Tower play this, and everybody was giving it like high reviews and 9s, and I was like, man, that game looks really good. And I applied for the contest, and I actually won a copy from the Dice Tower, and I was like, yo, these contests work. So the contest at Dice Tower, you need to do them because they work. You can win them. And they sent me the game in October. I love that game. Anyway, we're not reviewing that. That's not in this game. Is that a deck builder? I don't know. I don't think it's a deck builder. You don't deck build in that game. Anyway, so we got the Loop. The Loop is a deck builder, but it's like this time machine. Dr. Foe is breaking into time. Dude, the instruction manual and everything in this game is just so packed and loaded with like comedy. They even have like Super Saiyan clones, so they have like Dragon Ball Z references. It's actually really funny. But you go around time traveling through history, trying to attack and go after Dr. Foe and finish his schemes and thwart his schemes. And so he's doing certain things, and so you have to loop in different areas, and there's all sorts of things you can do to play this game. But it's a deck builder, and you build, you don't really necessarily buy them, but you get new cards when you do certain, finish certain events and land in certain spaces. You get to take cards and build your deck with these cards. And if you build it right, when you do a loop, which is one of the coolest mechanics, is that all the cards have symbols on them. And if you have any amount of cards with the same symbol and you do a loop, you reset all of those cards that you had exhausted, and so then you can use those 3 cards again. So if I had 3 cards with the same symbol and I use all 3 of them and then I loop, they all ready back up, which was such a cool mechanic, and I love doing those loops. And dude, there's some times where on your turn you could just walk around and just loop. But the way they mitigate that is by making loops more expensive every time you do it, which I thought was a really cool mechanic. And it's got this little cylinder in the center that you drop damage cubes into, and those damage cubes fall into different areas. It's such a cool game, man. I highly recommend everybody playing and getting this game. This is one of my favorite deck builders. It's literally my number 5. I did not expect it to be this high, but this game is fun, and it's got a bunch of like scenarios that you can play, so it's always changing things up and the mechanics behind it. That is the Loop, my number 5. Running out of space, so I'm gonna put it over here. My number 4 is Quest for El Dorado. I'm just gonna go straight into this. This game is incredible. I am on the hunt for the new edition with the Vincent Dutrait artwork. Let me tell you something. I am the biggest Vincent Dutrait fanboy. Like, I don't care if that sounds bad. Dude, I love his artwork. I want to meet him. I want him to sign every game that I own that with Vincent Dutrait artwork on it. I need him to sign them because I cannot stop loving his artwork. This is not Vincent Dutrait, but it is pretty good anyway. But Vincent Dutrait did a brand new version of this game. I am on the hunt for that. I cannot wait to find it. The minute I find that in a store, I am purchasing it immediately, and I'm giving this to some friends of mine. But Quest for El Dorado is an amazing deck building game where you are just racing across a big, gigantic jungle, and you build your deck with cards that are either blue, yellow, or green, and those blue, yellow, or green cards will let you move onto blue, yellow, or green spaces. It's so easy and simple to pick up. I've introduced this to every single person, no matter how much of a gamer they are, even if they're one of those people that only plays party games. Dude, everybody has loved this game. My wife and I love this game, and we were even having a hard time choosing between this and my 3, but the 3 ended up winning. Quest for El Dorado, amazing deck building game. It's also a racing game. I didn't think a game like this would work out so well, but it really did. And the one who made this is it Knizia? It is. Reiner Knizia. This is my second Reiner Knizia game that made it onto this list. Or did I have more? No, that's it. But Reiner Knizia is a genius. I was talking about this. Siege of Rundar, I believe, is also a Knizia. I have Lost Cities, which is a Knizia. Dude, that guy's a genius at making games. This one happens to be one of his best of all time. Quest for El Dorado, my number 4 deck building game of all time. And now we're going on to the top 3, ladies and gentlemen. Top 3. And my number 3 is not going... There's going to be no surprises here because you guys know my top videos if you've been following and watching my channel. Lost Ruins of Arnach is my number 3. I was choosing between this and Quest for El Dorado. Quest for El Dorado is just like... I had that same thought process about Star Realms and Legendary, but I was like, I would rather play Quest for El Dorado because it's just faster to set up. It's easier. Just set it up and go. But man, Lost Ruins of Arnach just gives you so much more bang for your buck. This is a worker placement, also deck building game. I feel like the deck building game is not as prominent, but I guess that's just me because I play bad. But man, there's a deck building aspect to this game is really cool, where the symbols you have lets you match up with spaces you want to go to fight monsters and bosses, and the higher up you go, the more rewards you can get. And so you want to build your deck so that you can go further throughout the game. It's a really cool concept. Lost Ruins of Arnach, if you've never played it, you're just missing out like big time. I'm really excited for this. Another one that matches up with it is Endless Winter. I just picked it up actually because we were talking about that. I just picked up Endless Winter. I got it super cheap, by the way. I think it was like, well, it's not super cheap. I think that's the price it normally is. It was like $40. But this game is incredible. I love Lost Ruins of Arnach. Ooh, sneeze. All right, Lost Ruins of Arnach, that's my number 3. My number 2, this is a new game to the list if you guys have ever seen it, but Great Western Trail. Dude, I love Great Western Trail. This has a deck building game where you're building a deck of cows, and that deck of cows, you're trying to build it so that way as you draw more cards, you have more valuable cows in your hand, and then you're moving around to spaces, selling the cows, doing things, using them to do certain actions, and you're building these little houses so that when you go there, you can get different actions, but then if people jump on those actions, they have to pay you. And you're like planting your houses and buildings and businesses all over this map, and you're going and taking these cows, dropping them off to be, I guess, shipped out through the trains. And it's the Great Western Trail, man. Dude, this game is great. I want to play this so much more than I actually do. I need to get the second edition of it because I heard it has a really cool solo mode. But I have this one because this was a ding and dent from a store. And because it had a little dent in the corner over here, they gave me this game for like $20. And I'm like, dude, this is a $60 game that I got for $20. Of course I'm going to take it. Great Western Trail by Alexander Pfister. Amazing game. Amazing creator. And dude, I just want to keep playing this game. I really, really enjoy it. That's my number 2 deck builder. And my number 1, if you didn't see this coming by now, then you obviously don't know me, which is cool. You should get to know me. Like, comment, and subscribe. My number 1, Dune Imperium. The deck building in this game is just phenomenal. I always want to play this. I don't think there's a time, like if somebody came over to my house and said, hey, what's that Dune Imperium game? I'm like, we're setting this up. Sorry, that was probably really loud on the mic. We're setting it up. I'm setting it up. We're playing because I just want to play. I will look for any excuse to get anybody to play this game. And everybody that I've introduced it to, even though a lot of them weren't like super into gamey, thinky things. I'm sorry, my dog is whining. Bane, what's the matter? You good? Anyway. Dune Imperium, such an amazing game. I really love this game. So it's like it's a worker placement. It's a lot like Lost Ruins of Arnach. So if you like that game, you will love this if you haven't played it by now. But this is like on the top of everybody's list. I don't think that anybody should be surprised that this game is up here. It's got deck building, which is really cool. The reason I like the deck building is because the cards aren't just a single action on them. They have an action on top that you can use to travel, and that's how you worker place. Because in order for you to put a worker on a specific spot, the card you spend has to match with that spot, just kind of like Lost Ruins. But then on the bottom of the card, there's a secondary action that you can use it as. So any cards that you don't use to worker place, at the end, they provide money for you to buy so you can do deck building, or they provide combat points, and then there's fighting and all sorts of stuff, man. I don't have to talk about it. Dune Imperium is just an amazing game, and it's only better with the expansions, which I don't have any of them. And everybody keeps telling me, dude, play with the expansions. It'll change your life. I want to, but I'm just having so much fun. One of the things that I say is that I will never buy an expansion for a game unless I know I really, really love the game and I've played out the base version of it. Once I've gotten sick of the base version, then I'll buy the expansions. The only thing that's not like that was this, because I had to buy all the expansions because they don't sell them in stores. And now if you've seen the Kickstarter for the recent thing, what is going on? We're not producing any of this stuff anymore. That's why I'm glad I went ahead and purchased it, because otherwise it would have been a nightmare to find it. Even though I found a couple of expansions, but there's a lot of expansions here that I've never found in stores. So anyway, we're not talking about Marvel United. We're talking about Dune. Dune is an amazing game. You should buy it. Anyway, that is my top 10 top 10 deck builders of all time, and I love all of these games very, very much, including some of the ones that didn't make the list. And I have a whole bunch up here that are deck builders that I haven't played yet. So tell me, what's your favorite deck builders? Also, my next video that I'm going to do for the top 10s, every Tuesday I'm going to do a top 10, and every Saturday I'm going to do a review of a game. And so if you haven't checked out the Woodcraft review, that's up, and I'm going to be doing some reviews coming up soon. One of the reviews I'm looking forward to doing is this one, Comic Hunters. I found this game. You can only get this in Brazil, and thank goodness, like thank God, we found a guy. Me and my friend found a guy who actually had 2 copies of it sealed from Brazil, because apparently his partner is from Brazil, and was, I guess, his parents came from Brazil and brought like 4 copies to him, and dude, I was like, I can't find this game anywhere. It's amazing, and the instructions are all in Portuguese. They have an English thing. I think if you know Spanish, I know a little bit of Spanish, so I was able to read some of it, but I'm going to need that guide. But I cannot wait to do a review of this game, because this game, I heard, is incredible, and you can only get it in Brazil. Dice Tower said that their copy's coming soon of this in English. They said don't go out there and spend more than you should, which I did not, by the way. I took your advice, Tom Vassell. I got this for a cheap price, but I haven't even opened the seal on this. As soon as I do, I'm sleeving this thing up. Okay, but I'm excited to do a review. But if there's anything you guys want me to review or anything you guys want me to do, I think my next top 10 video I'm going to do, somebody suggested in the comments, and I thought it was a really good idea because there aren't a ton of videos on it. Top 10 filler games. What are my top 10 games to play when I've got like 10, 15 minutes and we could play a game real quick? I think that would be a cool video. So anyway, love you guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you for liking, commenting, and subscribing. See you guys very soon.